Welcome back. It's high school baseball season, and with an epidemic of the kind of injuries that you only used to see in the major leagues, new rules are in effect to protect high school pitchers. But will they work? High school coaches now have to report the number of pitches their players throw. There's a mandatory rest. There's a new app to make it easier. But do the new rules make injuries less likely, and are there ways around the new rules? And joining us for more is Craig Faulkner, head coach of Venice High School, one of the best high school programs in Florida. And joining us by Skype from Tampa is Jared Guthrie, the best high school baseball reporter in the area, formerly of the Tampa Tribune and now with 813preps.com. Thank you for both. Jared, you have been watching I can't think of anybody who watches more high school baseball games than you do. Have you noticed any differences in the last year as these state rules have gone into effect in terms of the care that high school coaches have done in terms of making sure that their pitchers stay within the new rules in terms of pitch limits?
Yeah, I think they're paying more attention to it, but really, you know, high school coaches, it's a weird small community. They're really trying to take care of these kids. So a lot of them were already doing things to ensure that their players weren't being overused. But certainly I think that opposing teams are now paying a little more attention to what their opponents are out there throwing pitch-wise. But I don't know if I've necessarily seen a dramatic change to what teams are doing.
Coach, let me ask you this. I mean, what do you do in terms of, I mean, you have just a certain amount of kids on your team or any team that you really want to give the ball to. So what do you do to kind of manage how many pitches they're throwing?
Well, we know before we go into a game how many pitches we want that pitcher to throw, and we have a chart in front of us all the time that tells us exactly how many pitches they've thrown. And, you know, it's important to us that we don't overuse pitchers because wins are not as important as a kid's arm is, and, you know, they are going to have some, you know, career beyond baseball and beyond high school, and we surely don't want to mess that up.
I would imagine it's easier during the regular season when you have, you know, you could chart things up, but when you get to the districts or even the regionals where, you know, it's every kid's dream, every coach's dream to get as far as they can, you want to win those games so bad, and you know who's hot and who's not.
Well, that is important, and what we try to do at Venice High School is we try to get a bunch of pitchers ready and bring them into situations all throughout the year so that they're ready to come in an important situation and pick up a guy that needs to come out of the game because of pitch count. But truthfully, we don't get very close to the pitch counts. You know, we watch it pretty closely. We've always, the 20 years I've been coaching, we've watched it very closely. So it's not really that big of an issue for us. You know, the issue comes in, you know, with figuring out how to, you know, see other teams, what they're throwing, what they're not, how many pitches are, and then how do you police that? You know, I think that's what the state is struggling with right now is how do you police it?
And I want to get more into that in the next segment, but Jared, let me ask you this. I mean, do you see coaches with different perspectives out there? Or what the coach was saying in terms of getting as many kids ready to pitch during the regular season so they're available with experience when you get to the district playoffs?
Yeah, I think that the coaches are paying attention. Certainly in the state tournament past the district, you know, the games have gone to once a week. So pitch counts aren't as scary there in the district per se. I think high school coaches in this scenario are getting a bad rep. Most high school coaches, especially in public schools, are doing this for a very, very small stipend, and they're about protecting these kids. So I think that the FHSA is taking a good step, but this is a much broader issue when you take into account travel ball and showcases, which is completely outside the realm of high school, and they don't have any say on what those coaches do with the young men's arms.
Okay, we are just getting warmed up, and we'll have much more on high school pitch counts right after we check the first alert weather, so stay with us. Welcome back. We are talking about pitch counts in high school baseball, and joining us for more is Craig Faulkner, head coach of Venice High School, one of the best high school programs in Florida. And joining us by Skype from Tampa is Jared Guthrie, the best high school baseball reporter in Florida, formerly of the Tampa Tribune and now with 813preps.com. And Coach, I understand the care that you take in terms of managing the pitches that your kids are throwing, but do you see that universally at every high school that you come up against?
Well, a lot of high schools, definitely take care of their pitchers, but we see, pretty often where, pitchers have thrown an excessive number of pitches, especially early in the season. We have a rule of thumb at Venice High School, your first outing, you may throw 40 pitches, and that's after, several bullpens, several inter squads, then maybe the next time 50 pitches, and then maybe, 60, 70, but we have seen programs, even the first outing, throw 80, 90 pitches in their first outing, especially when it's a little bit cool outside. And, we wonder, is that going to, what effect that has on the players. But, for the most part, the high schools are very good at it. But we do see it sometimes, and, it's hard to understand.
Jared, have you seen that? I mean, you and I have been at the same games there, and as a parent of a pitcher for Wharton High School, we have seen cases where there have been kids at other schools that have thrown up to 100 pitches earlier in the season.
Yeah, I think Coach nailed it right there, talking about the best coaches are ones that pay attention to where you are in the season. And, really, you're preparing for the postseason as a high school coach. It's nice to get wins, and in the regular season, that's great. Kids want to win. But you're preparing to get into the districts and into the state series. So, yeah, having kids throw more than, 70, 80 pitches in the first couple of weeks, it's ridiculous. But the other thing we need to point out is we're in a beautiful state where we have wonderful weather all year long. And these kids, your reporter mentioned, are playing baseball 12 months of the year, whether it be travel ball, AAU, those other various programs. So the onus kind of falls on all coaches to pay attention to what these kids are doing and how much they're using their arm in a given year.
And that's the rub, Coach, because, and it's also the parents' responsibility, I would imagine, also when you're dealing with travel baseball. But, here's the reality. If you have a talented ball player and they aspire to play in college or professionally, you do have to play in some of those summer high school tournaments, and some of these travel teams are not the same. You're involved with the Florida Burn, which is one of the best in Florida, but there are other teams here put together by local communities, which are not necessarily run by pros like yourself. They're run by dads, and without the professional training. Is that the bigger risk than high school baseball?
Yeah, I think it can be because, travel baseball, they can play 5, 6, 7 games in 3 or 4 days because of, if you start winning, you keep moving on, and rain gets involved a lot in the summer, and all of a sudden you're playing 3 or 4 games in one day. If you're a small organization, maybe a parent's running the team, and they want to win really badly, they may overuse some kids. It's not that they want to, they just don't have anybody else to throw. Whereas a big organization like the Florida Burn, we have several pitcher-onlys, and we monitor very closely, pitchers' arms. It's really important to us because, a lot of colleges watch our players at the Florida Burn, and they like what we do with our pitchers, and they want us to take care of them, and that's really important to us that we do that.
So no doubt you want to win those games, but programs like the Florida Burn, my kid played for the Orlando Scorpions, they're about development of the player and their aspirations. They get more of a joy of seeing their kids play in college rather than maybe winning the big tournament.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It is about the kids, and with my organization and Mark Guthrie's the Florida Burn, we are about developing and teaching, not just playing games on the weekend. We want to take care of the kids, teach them the game, make sure when they leave our program they're healthy, they're better than when they came, and we put a lot of care into that. It's really important to us.
So Jared, how often have you seen around Hillsborough County and Polk and Pasco and Pinellas and down here on the Sun Coast, some of those big names out there that everybody knows about, but they come back from their summer and you hear that they're hurt, they have some kind of problem, and they never achieve in high school because they frankly have gotten hurt or burned out?
Yeah, I think the thing that kind of baffles me in this whole thing is why are the professional level and the college level players so pampered, so taken care of, and our children, the ones who their bodies are still growing, their muscles are still developing. They're out there throwing, sometimes, as Coach will tell you, his organization is great, but a lot of these travel ball organizations are not great. They're there to win games and get more kids to sign up for the teams, and they'll use kids. And then there's another thing about maximum effort. Maximum effort pitches. Take a guy like Justin Verlander. Last year he had a 9-inning start with the Tigers, and he was throwing 95 to 98 in the first inning, and he tailed off as he got tired, but then he pitched a complete game, and in the ninth inning he was out there putting one across at 97 again. There's maximum effort pitches in these showcases and travel ball where these kids are only throwing 3 innings. They're going out there throwing incredibly hard. Look at the perfect game All-American Classic last year. After being around since 2003, they set the record for walk because kids are throwing as hard as they can and maybe not accurately, and I don't know how that's developing players.
Yeah, I mean, Jared has a point there because, and I know this from personal experience, that your kid knows he goes to some of these huge tournaments where you're going to be seen by the scouts, but by both the pros and the college programs. It's not like starting in high school where you could build up to your velocity over the course of innings. You got to show it pretty quickly.
You do, and a lot of times these these big tournaments like that where they're trying to, one weekend tournament, it is at an off time because it's the only time they can run them when the high schools aren't doing their thing or whatever. And so usually off time pitchers are resting, they're not getting all their bullpens in and things like that. And then they go to one of these big showcase type events where there's a lot of colleges there, and their arms aren't really ready for that, and they throw it as hard as they can. They get a little adrenaline going, and they do end up hurting themselves. It's happened at Venice High School where some kids have gone off to these showcases and without telling us they're going, and we're like, well, you haven't been throwing your bullpens. What are you doing? But it's hard not to try to perform at a high level when you got all these colleges watching, even though they're not ready. So it's a difficult thing.
So Jarrett, when you're talking about the Florida High School Athletic Association and these new rules, are there teeth in these rules in terms of that state organization making sure that every high school program around here are following them, and if they violate their rules, that someone out there is cracking down?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think that this is a nice statement being made by the FHSA. They're doing a service to say that they're paying attention to these issues and they're focusing on them. And last year they implemented the rules. This year they're trying to be a little more, hey, let's pay attention to the pitch counts on a max premise or a game changer or one of the internet services. But it's not a mandatory thing. And also, it's I don't know that it has the significance, again, when we talk about just how much these kids are growing that their high school coaches are unaware of.
And that's the thing. You don't necessarily know what your high school players are doing in the off season and how many innings that they have over the summer.
Yeah, we try to keep track of it at Venice High School, and a lot of them do play for the Florida Burn, so we know that. But, yeah, it's important to get your rest, different times to get rest. Talking about the monitoring this, there is really no monitoring system. In other states, what they're doing is they're hiring a third or a fourth official that sits in the stands, and they keep a game changer, and that's how they monitor it. They pay them half price or something just to sit in the stands to keep a game changer. But if you had a high school game and no one's keeping a game changer that's an official book, there's no way to know really how many pitches they threw. So it's a difficult.
All right. We have to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment. And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. So, Jared, let me start with you as somebody who, as I said at the outset, you probably watch more high school baseball games than just about anybody I know. How has the culture changed in terms of trying to make sure that these kids are not throwing more pitches than they should be at their stage in their young careers?
I think it should change more. I don't know that it's changed significantly because of this rule. I think it's getting people talking, and that's important. But these kids, whether it's the parents and the kids and the coaches from all levels, high school and travel ball, they need to do a better job, like we talked about. We're protecting the professionals and the college kids by only having them throw once a week. We need to start doing that with our students and our young kids.
And Coach, I want to give you an opportunity to plug a real special day at Venice High School baseball, but also, you know, Jared has a point. You know, at the pro level, they are so careful about their pitchers and what they can and cannot do. But in many programs, unfortunately, it's really not the same.
Yeah, but I do think this pitch count does help. This pitch count rules do help, especially when you throw over 30 pitches you can't throw the next day and things like that. That comes into play quite a bit. So I think it will help. It makes people definitely more aware of what's going on. So I think it is a really good step into to helping kids' arms.
And quickly, the Venice High School veteran.
Yeah, if you want to see baseball at its finest, we have a Veterans Night where we invite all the veterans and their families in our park on April 7th to come in free. It's a 5 o'clock game. We'll have fireworks. We'll feed the veterans. We give them hats. We give them baseballs. It's a fun night. It's the way it's supposed to be in high school. Hopefully we'll see some veterans there. We usually have over 100 veterans.
All right, thanks a lot. FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's expired, just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank both our guests for being here tonight. Craig Faulkner is the head coach of Venice High School, and joining us by Skype from Tampa is Jared Guthrie, formerly of the Tampa Tribune and now with 813preps.com.